afternoon, Dubai. I hope you're doing great. It's good to see so many people here, some friendly faces. I'm Nadeem Katab. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a native agency called Zivio. And this year we're going to spend a little bit over $100 million on native ads. Predominantly Taboola. It's also going to be the focus of my presentation today. A lot of the learnings, a lot of the cases that I'm going to show today are applicable to everything, but they are Taboola cases. So especially, I looked at the panel before this. There were some Outbrain-specific, best practices. Some of those are different on Taboola. I'm going to go into detail on what's different and how we spend. At this stage, it's around 100,000 a day on Taboola, close to 200,000 a day across the board. A little bit of a background when this clicker works, which it is not. Pretty sure I'm pressing the right button, guys. I'm sorry, but the clicker does not work. There we go. All right, quick recap. I've been a media buyer since 2017. I studied political science, was in event management before this, didn't really know how Google made their money, didn't know how Facebook made money. It was a world I had no contact with. I started as a pretty crappy media buyer, very quickly became less crappy. In 2018, I had my first million a month campaign. 2019, my first million a month campaign for a brand, a big brand. In 2020, I founded a big native agency called 6H. In 2022, I sold said my stake in that agency, and I founded Zivio in 2023. This year, we're essentially the biggest native ad spender in the world. We manage, like I said, around 100 million this year, a little bit more. And I want to talk to you today less about the basics of native ads. I'm going to touch upon them for like 2 minutes. But before I go any further, does anybody here not know what native ads are? Okay, so there's like I have 2 slides for you. For everybody else, there's like 36 slides that are a little bit more relevant for those that know what native ads are. Going into things, essentially, over the last 10 years, native ads, the principle of native ads have stayed the same. You find the right people in a sea of users on the open web. You segment them, you bring them into a content-rich environment where you build interest before sending them to a page to sell them a product. The biggest difference over these last years is that everything's gotten more expensive. CPMs have gone up, CPCs have gone up, CTRs have gone up. People have gotten better at native ads, which is why they have become more challenging. But with the right mix of creative approach and media buying finesse, you can still make a lot of money. Looking at these 4 geos, so the US, Spain, Germany, and India, we've seen CPM increases between 2020 and 2023. In the US of 30%, Spain of about 20 on Taboola, 25 in Germany, and 300% in India. India is obviously a very emerging market, so the jumps there are going to be larger. But the real, I think, clue here is on top publishers, which are obviously not the long tail. There are thousands of publishers. The true CPM of these top publishers, which are the publishers that you're going to be spending a lot of money on, have gone up over 200% over the last 4 years, meaning approaches that were working in 2020 won't work today. Things have gotten harder, so you need to be better. But first, for those 3 people that raised their hand, what the hell are native ads? Honestly, it's an ad that you serve on a publisher, normally below the feed, so when you've scrolled past the content, there's going to be some organic suggestions, then there's some ads. This is an example of a Taboola ad. Once you click on the ad, you should land on a landing page, what I call the content-rich environment, where you present an idea and then you move the user from he doesn't know what the hell he wants to, he's interested in your product or service. And then the last step is the offer page, where you want to convert the user. This can come in a variety of forms. In this case, it's a bag for some reason. I don't know why our designer chose a bag, but this is what we've got for you. It can be a lead form. It can be direct to an app install page on the Google Play Store or the App Store. It doesn't really matter. The idea is that this is the page where you sell. These are the 3 steps of, I'd say, most successful native ad campaigns. Can you cut a step? Can you add a step? Of course. It depends on what you're selling, how you're selling it, and what your ultimate goal is. The how-to of Taboola in 2024. Essentially, we've seen GIFs and videos pick up for a variety of reasons. I think it's mainly adoption on publisher level. So more and more publishers are supporting this new format, which means we've been seeing more success with this new format across the board. Try it. It's been working for us. Secondly, smart bid, which was introduced, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years ago as their smart algorithm using the second priced auction, is gradually being replaced. Last year, I was on this stage and I said, I think media buying is officially dead. So I didn't introduce myself as a media buyer. This time around, it is dead. Media buying has changed. You do not need to micromanage campaigns the same way I did when I started. That's because the algorithms are doing more and more of the work for you. With all good things come the bad things. If everybody has a good algorithm, everybody's buying better. This is why the prices are going up and the competition in the market is increasing. I'm going to walk you through the couple of steps now how we start every single campaign at Zevia. Before we spend a single dollar, so right now we're at $0 ad spend a day, we prepare a bucket of 50 ads. Normally, something like 10 headlines and 5 thumbnails. It can be a mix. It doesn't have to be this. Around 50. So we're not going to upload all of these ads. The goal is to have a pool of creatives ready before you hit the ground running. Why is that? Well, once things start not working, the last thing you want to be doing is not having things to upload and having to go back to the drawing board. We normally start with one product. You can have somewhere between 1 to 5 different offer pages if you want. We typically use volume to rotate in different funnels. I recommend if you have something that's working elsewhere to first stick with that before you start adding more variables. And then we launch 2 to 3 landing pages with unique content. So these are not iterative versions of each other. These are really pieces of content that are built for this environment and that are built for the campaigns. They test different angles. One might be a health approach. One might be a finance approach. One might be a VSL. It doesn't matter. The idea is that you have different ideas, and right now what you're doing is you're taking stuff and throwing it out there. I'm going to test that direction, and that direction, and I want to see what performs best before I build up on my campaigns. The chances that any of these things are really going to work at scale is 0. But you want to start working towards where you want to get so you can scale. Phase number 2, $50 to $100 a day. I don't recommend, and we're not talking about search arbitrage here, so please don't launch your search arbitrage campaigns at $1,000 a day. But for everything else, $50 to $100 in total budget. So you can split it, 250, 250, 500, 500. You don't want to go too low with this number because you're going to spread out the amount of time that you're going to be testing. You have a lot of moving pieces in a Taboola campaign. You have multiple ads, multiple publishers, multiple landing pages, multiple offer pages, multiple, upsells, downsells, whatever. You have a lot of different variables that are all working together to bring you the performance and scale that you want on this platform. The least amount of variables, the better. So you need to test all these variables as well, but you're going to have a couple of different variations from day one. You're going to upload your content, mobile, and then desktop plus tablet. That's normally what we do. If you're running in a very big geo like the US, you can also split these into 3 campaigns, or just run mobile and desktop at the beginning to minimize your testing budget. You want about 10 ads to start with, 8 to 10. You're going to upload back to 10 ads when you kill content. Especially at the beginning phase, this means that you can be testing dozens and dozens and dozens of different ad variations every single week. It means that you can very quickly rotate through different ideas to get to a point where you can exit the second phase of this and enter the third phase, which is scaling. Once you have hit your CPA, once you're at a point where you're like, hey, the performance is good enough for me to start spending more money, you quickly increase your budgets. My media buyers aren't a big fan of this because it's typically quite painful, but I have essentially 3 or 4 budget settings when I'm using like the smart bid on Taboola. You have $250 to $500, you have $1,000, you have $5,000, and you have $50,000. That's it. I don't really use increments between that. Why is that? Well, with smart bid, you're using the second price auction. This doesn't apply to max conversion campaigns because they're going to blow your budget regardless of what you put there. This applies to smart bid campaigns. You want to quickly rotate through ads. You're going to have 4 to 6 ads live at this stage, and when you're below 4, you're going to upload back to 8 to 10 and then kill them really, really, really quickly. A lot of people are like, Nadim, when do you know when to kill an ad? When you have a couple of clicks, let's say 50, 100 clicks on an ad, and it's well below your average, either in landing page CTR, in CPM, in general performance, you're going to kill that ad. Do you have enough data to make that decision? No. not at all. But you want to be about 80% sure when making that decision that it's the right decision. Why? Because you can make that decision 10 times faster than if you wait until you're like 95% sure. And speed of testing and speed of iteration is everything in these steps on Taboola. We're going to be moving away from throwing stuff at the wall on the landing page level and start testing landing page iterations. What we typically do here is we start with the top and the bottom of the page. You have the hero image at the top with your title, and at the very bottom, you have a call to action. Gamifying your call to action can double your landing page CTR, sometimes even triple it. It's a bit ridiculous. I didn't believe the data, what I was seeing when we first started testing this. Now it's best practice across the board. You don't want one call to action. One call to action is essentially telling the user, everybody that lands on this page is going to click here. It's like claim your discount. It can work. What works better is giving the user the perception, the idea that they're choosing something tailored to them. Choose your state, choose your age, choose your region. These things make the users feel like they're clicking on something that is tailored to them, and they're curious to see what's behind it. Gamification works. Use it on your call to actions. We also split test visuals in the body, so having different diagrams works really, really well. These don't have to be complicated diagrams. They can be a graph that shows the prices are going up. It doesn't, I mean, people aren't here to educate themselves on a doctor level. Like they want to learn something, they want to get to the point quickly. Keep things simple, use visuals to get to the point. We've seen a decent increase in performance with tools like this, or with visuals like this. We use something called Microsoft Clarity on all of our landing pages. It's a free tool by Microsoft that lets you, it's essentially a heat map. It lets you see scroll depth, user interaction with all the pages. If you don't have it on your pages, you're missing out on crucial data that is free for you to collect. It's very difficult to make decisions without this data. Get it on all your pages. The final step of the how-to of Taboola is bringing stability at scale. Once you've hit $5,000 plus a day, you can confidently call your campaign scaling. It is in a position where it's scaled, you're spending a decent chunk of money. The high end of scaling is something like 50, 60, 70,000 a day. This year, the biggest campaign we had was 65,000 euros a day in Germany. It's possible, and it's surprisingly easy to hold if the client that you're running for allows you to. You slow down ad testing at this stage. You create duplicate campaigns to split test different targeting options and ideas. You don't want to be uploading ads that have triple your CTR and half the performance into your main campaign. It's going to blow up your campaign. It's going to become the top ad, and you're going to have to re-optimize every single element in that funnel. If you have a new idea that you want to test, if you're like, hey, you know what? I don't like the health angle. I want to go more towards a fitness angle, something completely different. Put a new campaign and duplicate your existing campaign, lower the budget, bring it back to phase 2, and launch it again. You want to switch at some point to target CPA and max conversions. I'll get more into that in a second. But these are essentially the smart bidding mechanisms on Taboola, and they're quite good. Are they perfect? Absolutely not. They're going to get there at some point, but they've been working well for us. You want to test a couple of different landing page variations. At most, 20% of your traffic should be sending to split tests. You don't want to send a 50-50 split on a new page because you're going to destroy your campaign if that page doesn't work. 90% of what we upload doesn't work. What are the chances that that page on 50% volume is going to do well? Not very much. And you want to be ready to go back to step 2 once things start working. Essentially, your goal in step 4, in phase 4, is to bring stability into the campaign and prepare the next assets that are going to be your winners. You don't want to do this when you need them. You want to have ads that are new, that are performing well, before you need them, before the campaign crashes. You will have ad fatigue at some point. You will have reached 150 million Americans with your single ad. At some point, your ad's not going to work anymore. You want to be ready for that moment, and you want to move the new ads into a position where they can take over from the old ads once they perform. I see a lot of people telling me, Nadim, I have one ad that's performing really well. I can't get it off of position 1. My question always back to them is why are you trying to replace it? You just want to have a plan B. If you have one ad doing phenomenal, great. That happens quite a bit, actually. That's okay. Just be ready when that ad stops performing to rotate it out and bring something else in. That's all you want to do. You don't want to be replacing that ad. If you do, good for you. You have something that performs better. But the goal is to have something in your back pocket that when your top ads stop performing, you can rotate something new in. When to stop? Essentially, I've tried to put this into relatively simple terms. When you have 2 times your CPE goal after 2 weeks, and you have tested at least 3 different content pieces with unique ads. And you've spent at least 5,000 US dollars. Stop. Please, do me a favor. Stop wasting money. If you're 2 times away from your target CPA after 2 weeks, after having tested fresh ideas, after having thrown stuff at the Taboola algorithm, and you're still not getting closer to where you want to go, burning more money most likely is just going to cost you more. Get help. Ask your Taboola reps, ask your whatever reps, ask your agency, get an agency, talk to an expert, whatever. At that point, you either want to go back to the drawing board, restart the whole process with a completely fresh idea with a fresh product, or get help. Either way, stop wasting your money and try again. Our formula, so right now, Zevio is about 13 months old. We're pacing at around €1 million in profit a quarter, predominantly thanks to Taboola. I don't think I'm the smartest guy in this room. I think there are people here that can do a better job with native ads, that can make more money with native ads if they dedicate the time and the resources to it. I'm going to show you a little bit of how we make money. I'm going to show you some cases on what we've done and how we've gotten scale quickly this year on Taboola. So these aren't cases from 2020, whatever. This is December 25th until today. We have 2 divisions. We have an agency division making 70% of our money with lead generation. It's high volume, relatively low margin. You're not going to have a 200% ROI lead gen campaign. I'm very unlikely. It just doesn't work. The barrier to entry there for others is too low. You're going to have competitors. If you have a 200% ROI campaign, it's probably not going to last very long. E-commerce is much higher margin, but it's a lot less stable. We've been running since 2018 these same products with, I don't want to say identical content, but very close. In Germany, at scale, we spent 38 million on this insurance brand with the same ideas. It can work really well on lead gen. That doesn't exist on e-commerce. I don't know anybody spending on Taboola since 2018 with the same ideas and the same pieces of content. You need to iterate more. You have much more scaling potential, but the ads and the product will burn out much quicker. On the other side, we have affiliates. We do lead gen about 30%, e-commerce 50%, and search arbitrage, which I'm not going to talk too much about today, but maybe in Budapest next time. We syndicate everything. When we don't have the capacity in-house to scale in a country or a market for a product, we get help. I'll talk to you about that in a second, and I'll show you a bit how we do it. But essentially, diversification here is key. Nothing is working 100% of the time. And this is particularly true on native. We have campaigns that are working 95% of the time. We have campaigns that are working like 60% of the time. The important thing is that that we have enough products in our portfolio to survive the downtimes. And I see I'm running out of time, and I have a lot left, so bear with me. Essentially, the question here might be, Nadim, how the hell do you do this without a dozen marketers? And the question is, or the answer is, I don't have a dozen media buyers. I have 2. They're both managing a couple of million each a month. We have a dozen affiliate partners adding maybe another 7 figures to our total revenue. And I strongly believe, and this has changed, my opinion here has changed over the last 2 years, that one senior buyer, one really good buyer is more valuable than 10 juniors. In my old agency, we had 35 junior media buyers. I loved them, they were great, but it was a pain. It was really, really difficult to scale consistently with people that didn't know what they were doing. One senior is 1,000 times more valuable than 10 juniors. Sure, a junior can become a senior, but the likelihood of that happening, unless they're very good, isn't that high. They need to really want it. They need to be the right persona. Our goal is always to train or have or hire seniors and then throw money at them to keep them. I recommend you do the same. Essentially our upper hand, why I'm still here after so many years of doing this, is our support infrastructure. For every media buyer we have 5 people working behind the scenes. We have a creative director managing it all. We have a copywriter or copywriters. We have designers. We have a CRO specialist, and we have a web developer. The important thing is that we've divided these things up. We don't have a copywriter who's a designer. We don't have a designer that's also a CRO specialist. It's individual people working together on the same table to make sure that the campaigns are working well. We also don't have our media buyers doing any of this. Sure, they're in the brainstorming sessions, but it's an hour to get 4 pieces of content. They don't have to write it. Why? Because they're way too valuable to be writing content. You have content writers that are much better at their job than any media buyer that I know. Find them, hire them, get them into your team. Especially with designers, it's becoming easier now with AI, but creatives are an absolute key to making this work. I'm going to get a bit into the funnel, and I'm going to speed this thing up, and I apologize to Affiliate World. The funnel here is key. Make sure your offer is inclining. If you look at this picture here, which guy is going to climb over that wall for that $1? It's obviously the guy that can essentially go over it like that. If a guy has to bring a ladder or bring 3 friends to push him up, the hurdle to converting is much, much, much more difficult. So make sure that your perceived cost is low, that people feel like they're getting a lot of money, they're getting a lot of value for their money. And the easier, essentially the higher the perceived value, the lower your CPA, and the higher the cost, the higher your CPA. So if they feel like they're paying a lot for a product and getting little in return, it won't convert well. Vice versa, it will convert very, very well. After you've defined your offer, you want to build your content. I normally build my campaigns, or our team builds our campaigns backwards. We look at the product, then we build the funnel, and then we look at the ads. You want to understand what problem your product is solving, and then give the people an answer to the problem. So understand what your offer is, understand what problem your product solves, and then build content around it. Sweeten the deal with freebies, discounts, FOMO. You want to make it seem like if they don't act today, they're going to miss out on something. If you don't do that, if you don't get the user to act today, they won't convert today. They'll go to Google and buy the product in 3 weeks, or Amazon, and you're not going to get credit for that. If you're a brand, it's a different story. But for the most people in this room, we're probably paid on last click. We want people to buy today. Our funnel here, and this is a standard slide, you can take a picture. Essentially, we always introduce a problem, why it's relevant to the reader, introduce a solution, and then sell our solution with a FOMO and a gamified call to action at the end. This has been, I think, the same slide I've shown like 3 times. It still works. This format is absolute the way to go right now for the vast majority of products that we're selling. There are plenty of examples out there on the internet. You can ad spy, you can click on some ads, go to MSN, do some manual ad spying. The format of the landing pages really isn't key. Nowadays, it's much more about the content. So use this format, build your own content, and you're set. It's important to build your ads once you have your content around your content. Ask yourself, who do you want to reach? And how do you guarantee relevant clicks without overpaying? Sometimes it's better to have a lower CTR and a higher CPC, but have much more relevant users. Play around with different ideas. CPC is not everything here. We have campaigns spending $1.50 per click at insane profitability because the users that we're filtering relatively aggressively are very relevant. On the flip side, we're paying 10 cents in the US for clicks that are not very relevant, and we're losing a lot of people on the landing page. Test different approaches and make sure that you have a relationship between the ideas in the ad level and the landing page. I have 2 cases. I have a third in my head. I'm not going to be able to say it now because we are out of time. But this is an e-commerce case that started early in January or mid-January. That was pacing at around 15, 16K a day. It's currently, I'm expecting it to hit 50 a day in March. Essentially, they started at 0, 3,000 historical ad spend, very little. They had a ROAS of 0.5 and a daily store revenue of about 50,000 US dollars daily. Day 1, we launched 3 landing pages, 30 ads, with 10 of them uploaded, and a budget of $300 per campaign, and a ROAS of 1.2, which is actually quite good. Day 7, we had 1 top landing page, and we're split testing 3 variations. We had 34 ads uploaded, 28 of which were off, and we had a budget of $4,000 a day and a ROAS of 1.9. Day 14, we had 1 top landing page. We're split testing 2 landing page variations. We had 81 ads uploaded, and 75 of those turned off, and a budget of $15,000 a day with a ROAS of 2.4. Their daily store revenue, and this is a number that I really want to emphasize, was 160,000 US dollars. So although Taboola here directly was contributing $51,000 on a last click basis to their store, they had an incremental uplift of 59,000 US dollars a day. So more than was directly attributed to Taboola. Now, of course, they have other channels live. They did their best to scale those in those 14 days, but nothing scaled anywhere near as aggressively as Taboola. A lot of that revenue was because of Taboola. If you're a store owner and you're not running Taboola, you're not split testing Taboola, making sure that it works for your product, especially if it's a product sub $100. You don't need a VSL. If, like Giuseppe said in his panel before, if it's an expensive product, VSLs are probably the way to go. But for anything sub $100, a landing page to a product page can convert really, really well. You're missing out on a lot of money. Second case for today is seasonal lead gen. In January, we spent about 65,000 euros a day in Germany on Taboola. We did this by preparing. Pre-Christmas, we tested 22 landing page variations. We had about 100 ads that we tested in the 3 weeks before Christmas, and we're about $20,000 a day. After Christmas, December 24th, this is the real numbers, 19.9K. December 28th, 31.9, and January 2nd, 63.5. By the second week of January, we were the 4th largest Taboola account in the world, in Germany. We did this by preparing, having a lot of assets, throwing the assets into the mix, pre-scaling, being ready, having assets that we know we could scale, and then turning up the budget. The beauty of native, the beauty of Taboola, is that you can very aggressively scale your campaigns by just increasing the budgets. It's harder. It's harder getting to 50K daily than it is maintaining it. And I'm going to explain to you very quickly why. Essentially, there are two levels that you're competing with. You're competing against everyone on a CPM basis. That's relatively straightforward. But you're also competing against your direct competitors for placements on the page. We've done a couple of split tests over the years, and it's always shown that the first ad of a specific type in the funnel, in the feed, or the Taboola feed, is the ad with the lowest CPA and the highest quality. That means that you can have good CPMs, but be the second or the third of that type of ad, of that type of product in the feed, and have absolutely miserable performance. There's a report called Blind Spot. I should have put it in the slide. Get that from your account managers to understand how you're performing and compare to everybody else. If you have that report, and if you know that you're not the top person or one of the top people getting those top placements consistently on the Taboola feed, you need to increase your CPMs to push the others out. This makes a huge difference. We had a 30% higher CPC and a 50% lower CPL when split testing this last year. My media buying philosophy in 2024 is to use the system, not to beat it. I know there's a lot of tools out there. Some of them are great for search arbitrage, for example. You probably need them because you have too many campaigns. But don't add automation over the Taboola algorithm. Use external tools to analyze the post-click performance and optimize and split test. Test fast, kill fast, scale fast. Don't spread your budgets over a month. Condense the test into like 2 to 3 weeks. Don't do a 3-month test. I see a lot of brands coming being like, we have 20K, we want to do a 3-month test. Terrible idea. Don't do it. You're going to reduce the amount of data that media buyers can take actionable actions on, and you're going to just essentially make everything harder and longer than it needs to be. Quick, efficient, small-scale tests are the way to go on native. Again, 5K the minimum that you have to spend there. Now, target CPA or max conversions. It's a bit of a interesting conversations because essentially, we're starting to see max conversions perform really well in some campaigns right off the bat. Max conversions use a smart algorithm to try to find the users that convert best. So they'll try to nitpick on an impression basis which users are the most relevant for you. You can troubleshoot max conversion campaigns by looking at landing page CTR. If it's low, check your publishers. If your publishers are good, rebuild your funnel, test new landing pages. And if everything looks good until the offer page, you need to rework your offer page. If you're getting good metrics until the last step and it's not converting, it's probably not the ad that's the problem, but the product page itself. Rework your product, add freebies, increase the FOMO or the added value that you have in these campaigns, and you will see a better conversion rate. There are 3 parts that can go wrong on native. The ad to the content level, the content to the offer page, and the offer page to the sale. But there is a little bit of a catch with max conversions, and it's a black box, a little bit like Facebook or Google, in the sense that you don't have control. You can't micromanage a max conversion campaign the same way that you do on a smart bid campaign. So my recommendation here to everybody in the room is to test it. It is the future. It's coming, whether we like it or not. But you don't have to adopt it today. Try it. If it's working, I've seen people see an incredible amount of success right off the bat with max conversion campaigns. If it doesn't work for you, go back to smart bid and try it again in a couple of months. Now, max conversion or target CPA. I have 2 media buyers, Mark and Katjana here in the front. And honestly, Katjana likes target CPA campaigns and Mark likes max conversions campaigns. I don't have an explanation for that. I think it might have to do with the type of product or the country where they're running. I'd recommend you test both for your products. Once you have a smart bid campaign working well, transition it to a $1,000 a day to a max conversion and duplicate it to a target CPA campaign and see which one performs best. And let me know. I'm very curious. Some tips and tricks on Taboola before we wrap this up. If you have a video or a GIF, add a different backup image. And we've seen more scale potential by having the same ad duplicated multiple times in one campaign with different fallback images. It works. Don't run whitelists on Taboola. We've actually not even seen success running blacklists right now. I know it's different on other channels, but the run of network is getting good. I would always block push from e-commerce campaigns. Doesn't convert. So don't bother wasting your money on it. But other than that, run of network has been the key to our success at scale on Taboola this year. There are tip 4 and 5, which is the Taboola AI image generator. Most of our media buyers are using this regularly now to quickly iterate images. Use it, try it, it's free, it works very well. And then the last thing, which is relatively new, is the AI rephrase button for headline iterations. With a click of a button, you can have different headline variations. You don't have to take the first ones that come up. You can spam that button a few times, but try it. Especially for lazy media buyers like myself, this has saved me a lot of time. Now, we use 3 tools on top of Taboola. It's Volume as our ad tracker, Microsoft Clarity as our analytics tool for behavior on page, and Heyflow as our lead form builder. These 3 tools are inexpensive. They're very efficient at scale. I recommend you give them a shot if you haven't already. And as a closing couple of sentences essentially today, we will spend over $100 million US this year on native ads. Native ads are the absolute backbone of our business. We make a ton of money with them. If you do not test Taboola, it might be the costliest mistake you make this year. On that note, I will be at the Taboola booth with my entire senior team and my co-founders here. If you have any questions, I'd love to chat. I'll probably in 2 minutes, I'll head over to the Taboola booth, and I look forward to seeing you there. I'm really sorry to Affiliate World for taking so long. Thank you so much for having me.